When you think of a location that could make for the perfect video game atmosphere, outer space seems like a great setting for, say, an open world experience, in theory. I mean, think about it, there's space travel, a near infinite number of planets to explore, and combine that with the fact that we know very little about what is galaxies away from us, so there's tons of room to be creative and develop innovative gameplay. But when studios actually put this into practice, their execution has always came up short, which really sucks because the potential for an open world space exploration game is sky high. Even with a game like No Man's Sky, which after tons of tender love and care managed to do a complete 180, becoming one of the most beloved franchises out there, I still can't help but feel let down whenever I play it. That's because this game, along with all the other space sims out there, struggle with the exact same issue. Boredom. Sure, you can travel through millions of galaxies and explore the various resources and wildlife that they have to offer, but after a while, you start picking out small similarities between planets, leading for things to feel a bit stale. Wait a minute, what are you doing here? This is much to the fault of procedural generation, which, if you're unfamiliar, is essentially a randomized way to create content. Think of different seeds in a roguelike, where one run might begin with these cute, harmless enemies, oh look at the little guys, and then the next one puts you against demons from hell. In regards to an open world space sim, that means most, if not all, the planets are randomly generated, hence the reason you sometimes encounter repeating environments. During last year's Game Awards, Sean Murray, the director of No Man's Sky, gave an interview on his upcoming game Light No Fire, where he said, "It's the first real open world game." I'm sorry, what the fuck does that mean? Is he saying there's freedom to go wherever you set out to? Because Todd Howard has used similar verbiage for previous games of, if you see it, you can go there. Those planets in the distance, you can visit them. That mountain over there, feel free to hike it. And while they're not wrong, when you actually take the journey up that mountain, what ends up greeting you on the other side is disappointment. As a result of these randomized locations, that also means the loot you receive is pretty much a dice roll. For example, if I wander through a cave in Starfield, beat down all the bad guys, and scavenge the elite enemy, my item could be something totally different than what you get, which would be fine, except all the hard work I just put in to obtain said loot feels wasted due to the possibility of it being an item I'll never use, thus becoming a problem on subsequent playthroughs, because in a game like Elden Ring, I can choose whether or not I go back into that cave again, because it's the same reward every time. In Starfield, you never truly know if it's worth it. And although I've talked pretty negative about procedural generation, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Minecraft follows the same formula, with the only difference being no matter what, its loot is almost always useful. Another positive is that no two caves look alike, where in space sims, if you find one abandoned building, then you've essentially seen them all. A solution most people seem to agree on is downsizing from millions of planets to around 5 or 10 carefully crafted ones. The major benefit is you can load these planets up with places of interest that are actually unique from each other. Industrialize it, bring in a Sam's Club or an Amazon warehouse. A Walmart is literally the real world equivalent of a hub you'd receive a quest from someone dressed as a pirate or something. Speaking of quests, they must be pretty fun, because if the exploration department finds itself lacking, then there needs to be something engaging to keep players entertained, right? Nope, none of that either. A good majority of quests in this genre consist of what I'd call busy work, whether it's gathering resources, becoming a glorified galactic messenger, or building a base on one of the worst planets you've ever stepped foot on, and that's all within the first few hours. In No Man's Sky, once you overcome this tutorial, the quote, real game starts, and even these missions are just as boring. Tame 40 animals? This is a job for a zookeeper, not someone who can barely command their dog to sit. Starfield's guilty as well, considering most objectives rinse and repeat the task of convince this important person to help us for a job. But wait, they won't do that unless you help them with their own separate issues first. So you basically have to run errands for 2 or 3 people in order to finish your initial goal. And I can't stress enough the idea that we're so uninformed about what is light years away from us in the real world, so why won't video games take advantage of that and let their imaginations run wild? Like, where are the aliens? Do we seriously have a game set in space with no human-like extraterrestrial beings? Oh wait, I forgot about these guys. With having such vast open-world environments, the missions at hand need to match that same quality. Many games successfully associate the element of horror with universal travel. Outer Wilds not only has more interesting planets, but also perfectly encapsulates space to inflict fear and tension upon the players. I nearly creamed my pants after flying through Dark Bramble for the first time. I mean, have you seen an anglerfish? Those things are straight nightmare fuel. Now, a part of me wants to call out Bethesda for being lazy, or rather unimaginative, because I know what they're capable of. That entire Terramorph storyline was actually super cool. They utilized mystery in a way I never expected, by giving these creatures the ability to take control of civilians and use them to fight against you, even to the point of affecting your mind through injecting a slight dose of schizophrenia, making you hear voices of people that aren't actually there. But where was this effort through 99% of the given quests? So with repetitive exploration and tedious missions, what are the key features keeping players motivated to continue forward? And to most, that would be the gameplay. But I think you already know what I'm about to say, as As a sheer survival exploration game, No Man's Sky succeeds at what it's trying to be, a survival exploration game. You have to constantly scavenge for supplies to maintain your character's oxygen levels, toxic protection, ship resources, and many other monotonous chores in order to stay alive. The recurring gameplay loop of burning through resources then mining for more can become dull very quickly, and although you can flip between a variety of modes to cater to your ideal gaming experience, at its core, this is the primary cycle. While there are ways to minimize this task through exosuit and ship upgrades, to me the systems are kind of complicated, and that's common among most space sims. And I get it, there's a lot of moving parts to a game this scale, but if I have to look up a YouTube video on how to navigate a menu or find a specific upgrade vendor, then I think it's too overwhelming. However, the subject No Man's Sky gets right is the space combat. Every ship feels so smooth to maneuver, which should be the bare minimum for an object moving at light speed. But it still baffles me how some studios whose sole game mechanic is space travel still manage to screw it up. Starfield's flight feels like a school bus stuck in mud. The interplanetary combat also happens to fall in the same boat. No matter what playstyles you try to employ, whether it be by attacking with guns or melee weapons, the AI will always stand in place while you pepper hundreds of shots into their skulls. And this is true across the board, regardless of enemy types. Even those terramorphs that I was just gushing about are no exception. As for No Man's Sky, in terms of the overall scope of the game, the combat is more or less pushed to the side when compared to the other features it provides. Being more of a bare bones concept, you're better off forgetting about its combat entirely, as it leaves much to be desired. Now, does an exploration game really need fluid combat to craft a fun gameplay experience? No, but for those that want to escape from the mundane activities of an honorable protagonist, then engaging gunplay is a must.
Objection! Hold on, so you're telling me you didn't enjoy the hundreds of planets to explore? That's hours of gameplay. I sense a casual. Did you even try other builds? Starfield is an RPG after all.
Yeah, I definitely tried to mix it up. I just couldn't tell a huge difference in playstyle. Since the enemies were so spongy, the weapon choice didn't really matter.
How about the quests? Have you at least completed the Terramorph storyline?
Yep, that one was pretty cool, but the other ones never really had the same effect.
Well, what about the fun, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of agree with you. This game had its moments, but it's so flat in comparison to its predecessors. Todd Howard, where did you come from?
I was in the chess club.
And I believe that's the main point I'm trying to make. For Starfield, it's a game not even the fanboys are too thrilled about. So many features dramatically worsen your experience. With the constant loading screens, unnecessary cutscenes, inconsistent walking speeds, and conversations with characters that have a master's degree in yaponomics, this game was made to be frustrating. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, No Man's Sky has tons of content, allowing for so many alternative ways to play the game. The base building is phenomenal, and the fact that it has multiplayer definitely enhances it. There's no shortage of content for the hardcore players to enjoy, but that can be pretty daunting for the casuals. It simultaneously has lots to do, yet they aren't super entertaining activities, often being described as a mile wide but only an inch deep. And before you say anything, I know I didn't really talk at all about games like Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen, but that's mainly because they have a lot of problems of their own, and they aren't quite as fleshed out as these two titans, so I didn't really think to bring them up in anything specific. Anyway, that's pretty much all I had to say. I really like this genre of games, and I hope eventually they can correct their mistakes and create something truly remarkable. Also, I tried changing the editing style just to make things a little more unique and different, so I really hope it was worth it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.